Okay, cool. Thank you to the organizers and the attendees of the IEEE Cloud Summit 2021, and especially Bingwei Liu for the invitation to join you and our peers. And the focus of my conversation today is going to be AI in health and wellness, bringing together strategy, solutions, and value. My name is Prashant Natarajan. I'm the Vice President of Strategy and Products at H2O AI Health, which has healthcare, life sciences, and health insurance as a part of the efforts we do at H2O AI Health. So just very quickly and briefly about H2O. H2O AI is a company that has been on the mission to democratize AI, founded in 2012. And the key thing about us is most of our investors are actually also our customers. And we are also absolutely obsessed with our customers in healthcare, life sciences, health insurance globally, and in the United States, and also beyond quite a bit. And one of the things that we bring to the table is superior products that cover the end-to-end of data science and AI ML in terms of putting your data to work. And part of that is the work that is done by the Kaggle Grandmasters, 22 of whom are at H2O, including several of the world's top 10 of the Kaggle Grandmasters. We have about 200K meetup members who meet regularly around the globe, and about 20,000 customers that use H2O in some way, shape, or form, and including our open source solutions. In addition to my role at H2O, one of the things I'm passionate about is sharing from what we have learned from each other in terms of best practices, success stories, what worked well, conversely, and importantly, also what didn't work well, and how do we bring the promise of big data in general, AI, ML, towards business value and digital transformation, which have been really two of the books where I have been involved in bringing that together, not just based on professional experience, but also in terms of learning and sharing from stories from around the globe of organizations that do it well and do it right. And more importantly, how do they learn from their mistakes to be able to scale and grow? This is my conflict of interest declarations. Agenda for today's presentation is going to be the following. We are going to look at current state. We are going to look at the imperatives for change, right? Value and success. So in current state, we're going to look at where is our industry today and what are the different stakeholders doing. In imperatives for change, we're going to take a deeper look at what are driving the change initiatives that are currently in progress and why are we seeing these increasing efforts in ML and AI. And more importantly, how do we go beyond technology and how do we go beyond specific AI ML initiatives into crossing the threshold in terms of ensuring the creation of outcomes and value from a business perspective for the humans of healthcare, including members and patients being at the absolute top of that list, and also customers. And then what will it take us to get to repeatable and scalable success? Any learning objectives over here, if you want to really think in terms of that, and takeaways are really identifying the domain and industry specific trends in AI that are impacting healthcare organizations across board, learning and applying strategies and best practices from this presentation to real life scenarios, and then also learning how to operate at scale to create, deploy, and manage AI-led digital transformation in healthcare organizations. And these healthcare organizations can be payers, it can be providers, can be life sciences, retailers, pharmacy benefit managers, uh, GPOs, and all kinds of other organizations that are involved in almost about the 20% of the United States GDP, right? And also not an insignificant part around the globe as well. So here's a representative look at some of the headlines and insights that have been coming up recently. Is one is something is real when the government decides to start reimbursing people, when they start using algorithms, and the number of algorithms that are being supported for reimbursement, and also more importantly, that are being approved by the FDA has crossed the threshold significantly, and a lot more happening now than it was happening before. 90+% of about many hundred executives who were interviewed in this Optum AI survey believe that AI will improve the patient experience and provide meaningful solutions for a post-COVID-19 world. And I think this is a very important point. And this is something that we recognize within the industry as only something that will accelerate. At the same time, and it's actually crosses borders as well. You see similar sentiments in Europe. Coming out of Europe. There's also then the conversations that are happening on responsible AI, which is how do you leverage data? How do you leverage technology to counteract bias, to define and ensure fairness, to make sure things are interpretable and explainable? More on this later. The same survey also pointed out that about 94% of healthcare executives agree that AI technology is the most reliable path towards equitable, accessible, and affordable healthcare. In 2019, 53% of hospitals and care organizations had an AI, had no AI strategy, conversely, so 47% did. In 2020, primarily as a result of COVID, 90% do, and that number has increased since. Pretty much everybody does. The question is not, do you have an AI strategy? Do you want to use it or not? The question is, how do you go about it? How soon do you do it? And how do you repeat success? So the users of AI are not just on the customer, patient, member engagement side of the house, also not just on the clinical side of the house, but also importantly, in areas such as healthcare, resource utilization, supply chain management, manufacturing, document management, and other things. So there's a general move towards multiple areas, as we will see later. What are some of the imperatives to change? Well, the primary ones are really driven by the changes we are seeing during this pandemic, prior to this pandemic, during this pandemic, and also post this pandemic, in terms of the member, patient, uh, etc. And etc. because any individual plays multiple roles at the center of the experience. And how do we as an industry become more supportive of that? And also consumer to enterprise learnings and trends. As we are seeing in several other areas, we will see that accelerating. We are seeing that accelerating in healthcare, life sciences organizations too. And also the consumerism that's happening outside of healthcare settings, the non-healthcare consumerism is leading to certain expectations on types of superior experience, availability of insights, shared insights, and also the support in the transition from a world of healthcare to that of wellness and holistic care, driven by patient experience too at the center. There's a need for collaboration and interoperability across the healthcare and wellness ecosystem. But at the same time, having said all of this, the reality is healthcare organizations across board are also facing financial headwinds, both in the short and the long term. Now, these are all the trends that are happening in terms of a market and a business and an experience standpoint. Then the reality is that two of the things happening are technology related acceleration, the accelerated digitization that happened as part of digital transformation 1.0, the automation that is happening as part of digital transformation 2.0, and the need to go towards more augmentation and amplification in digital transformation 3.0 and beyond, which is going to be primarily driven by data and AI at the very core. In general, I would posit that it's not about AI for AI's sake or AI for business or operational needs or experience needs. In terms of just the customer experience, the reality is that anything that is happening today across pharma, life sciences, healthcare payers, providers, is in general, AI is transforming the human experience. So whether it is examples on how customer and patient engagement, marketing, and sales are happening in terms of benefiting both internal stakeholders as well as external stakeholders, um, developing new drug candidates, identifying repurposing candidates, looking at new ways to support decentralized trials and pharmacovigilance, or proactively identifying patients with disease, performing risk stratifications, and more importantly, enabling engagement and education at both the population and the individual levels. This is actually, I think, one of the key things that's happening, where we are seeing a significant amount of efforts that are happening in terms of uh, AI on the side of insurers, providers, managed care organizations, particularly. Looking at wellness and care, increasing access and affordability, uh, generating new business opportunities, and optimizing operations. In general, looking at managing the different types of data, not just structured data, but also medical imaging, also contracts, statement of work, medical referrals, right? Documents, and ICR, intelligent character recognition, in order to manage the supply chain, revenue cycle, HR, hospital operations, for example, that health systems are doing. In general, without going through every one of these, it suffices to say that generating value with AI, ML, and data at its core spans the entire gamut of use cases across healthcare organizations, from network management at the payer and provider side of the house to underwriting and insurance operations, to person 360 omnichannel engagement, population and public health care pathways optimization, real world evidence, decentralized trials, and the convergence that's happening beyond traditional healthcare organizations, translational research and precision medicine, etc., are significant areas, including in finance and HR and talent and supply chain, of where you see organizations generating value out of AI, including H2O's customers in the space. There are several value drivers, and here are some examples. And for those of you who are already in data science, this would be extremely familiar in terms of the various opportunities in classification, forecasting, recommenders, probability estimation, memory-based learning, clustering, computer vision, and NLP. As all being significant efforts where the various types of data that exist in the modern enterprise are put to work to drive value using an AI, ML, and advanced analytics as two sides of the same coin. Some key considerations, what we have found from experience is selecting the right use cases. Select with a bias towards value. At the same time, Don't necessarily put all the eggs in one basket by choosing just one use case. Maybe select five, rank prioritize them, and then decide what you want to do. You may want to experiment for all five, which is great. But keep in mind that while experimentation is important, operationalizing things is even more so, in order to be able to drive that value out of the gate and keep the focus on operationalization as much as possible as it will allow. Accuracy is important in the healthcare and life sciences context. The costs of low accuracy impacts trust between users, between the various humans who are involved in the process, including the member, the patient, or the customer, as the case might be. The return on investment as well as collaboration. Leverage auto ML, obviously, tr- doing more in less amount of time. Auto feature engineering, ensemble creation, one touch deployment. These are things that you can actually put technology to work so that you can focus, whether you're a data scientist or not, on more use cases, more solutions, and generating that repeatable business value. We touched upon previously on interpretability and explainability, why they are particularly important in the healthcare and life sciences construct verticals. And then one of the things we are seeing quite a bit at H2O is key focus on AI apps, building upon the great models and inferencing and scoring pipelines are a start. But knowing your audience and building AI apps as a driver of usage and adoption and app stores, we are increasingly seeing as a way that people are traversing part of that last mile, frankly. One of the other takeaways we have is that leveraging data in all its forms, using integrated data more so, using more variety, not just more volume, tends to have better results from what we are seeing. Data fidelity, which is a topic I talk about extensively in Demystifying Big Data and Machine Learning for Healthcare, one of my books, is the concept of the quality of the data in the context of its use and in the context of its user, as opposed to a one size fits all definition of data quality. Don't have time, nor is it the focus of this presentation today. So I'm not going to nearly speak about that at length. Interested folks can follow up on that topic on which I've spoken about extensively offline as well. But the key thing is what we are seeing increasingly is a focus on unstructured data, images, text, PDFs as being key data that people want to get insights out of. The final most important thing over here is that part of traversing the last mile is embedding your predictions and your insights into workflows, uh, understanding the importance of features to their contextual impact in the context of use, and being open to the idea of reimagining workflows are all going to be important. How do we get there? Obviously, keep the value in mind, making a tangible business case for everything we do and connecting that to value is going to be important in order to be able to create the support for what we are doing. Obviously, it helps a lot and it is necessary to success almost that leaders believe, trust, and support the mission across board. And we do what we can to be able to build that multidimensional community that is required to succeed at scale. Anchoring from the top is important, and leaders do need to believe. We have to focus on capability development on a continual basis across talent, bringing the right people on board, tech, choosing the right technology that's scalable, repeatable, and has a lower TCO, total cost of ownership, and also understanding what is going to support the transformation needs you have from a business and a digital perspective and how you can bring those together. Avoid pilots and garage analytics. And these are efforts that happen as a result of either heroic efforts or efforts that are purely driven by experimentation that don't go anywhere. Keep the end in mind and also focus importantly on change management and last mile adoption. Very, very important. The key thing is repetition. How do you repeat it? How do you make it stick? How do you make it adapt? And how do you repeat? So on that note, thank you again for this opportunity to discuss this topic. I sincerely hope that the content we covered here was useful to you. I would like to thank again the IEEE Cloud Summit 2021 and Bigway for having me and for my colleagues at H2O for joining me. Thank you.